Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 was one of the biggest debuts of all of 2024. And it continued to be one of the better selling comic books in the entire industry. Not one of the better indie selling books, but one of the better selling comic books that we had out there. Jason, Aaron, and Juan Ferreyra legitimately felt like the future of the franchise when it came to comic books. People were buying into it. And 12 issues later, it's now gone. That's not a comic book run. In comic book years, that's a lunch break. IDW ripped the rug out from underneath us again. So let me ask you this. If the flagship book of one of the biggest franchises in all of comic books can't make it a year with the same creative team, what the hell does that actually say about comics? This wasn't just a creative change. This was a corporate call. And they exposed just how fragile the industry is. So let's talk about how we got here and why TMNT fans are going to be the ones left holding the bag. When IDW relaunched TMNT in 2024, they went big. Jason Aaron, the guy that wrote Thor for a decade and was about to launch Absolute Superman, took over the Turtles. TMNT #1 orders totaled over 300,000 copies, making it one of the biggest launches of the year. This wasn't just another TMNT reboot. This felt a little bit different. And then came Juan Ferreyra. The man delivered career-defining work. This felt like it should be long-term. Aaron and Ferreyra didn't just tell turtle stories. They built a foundation. They introduced new original elements, deeper character dynamics, and they lived in New York that felt dangerous and real. And fans bought into this very dirty, gritty kind of TMNT reboot that was building off the stuff that had happened before, but dropped basically everything that had turned people off during the Sophie Campbell run. This felt like a new modern interpretation of TMNT that could last for years. And it wasn't failing. The sales were good. Critics praised it. And it ranked among the best-selling comic books in the entire industry. Ever since the relaunch, it's been a top 25, top 50 type selling book. The entire time, it is very successful by every metric in today's comic book industry. And the cherry on top has been Juan Ferreyra, who's delivering what I consider to be the best work of his career. And I'll say this right here. I think this is the best illustrated work in the history of TMNT comic books. And there have been a lot of awesome artists on TMNT. I think Juan Ferreyra has upped the game to another level in this run. His cinematic, kinetic storytelling, combined with the way that he laid out the pages, made everything about TMNT feel exciting and almost new, no longer stale, doing new things with the characters, new designs on them, making them all have their own personality, not just by the way that they spoke, but the way that they moved and the way that they looked. It was absolutely amazing stuff, with the neon alleys and the rainy rooftops. And there was real mood and atmosphere on every single page that Juan Ferreyra was putting out there. This isn't just a good TMNT run. It felt like it was going somewhere special, and it felt like the fans were getting behind it. They were continuing to support it. The numbers really weren't dropping down at all, and there's no real narrative that justifies this. This is just IDW being cheap. They're clearly slashing their page rates, even on their flagship TMNT comic book, the only franchise they have that's selling anything in 2025. And you won't believe who's taking over. The whole total change that they're going for, it's like Andy Corey and IDW didn't read the last 12 issues of TMNT that they actually published. It makes no sense. And people wonder why fans don't trust the comic book industry, because they do nothing long-term anymore. And these are the types of things that keep killing comic books from the inside out. If this creative team can't stay on a book for more than a year when it's this successful, what hope does the rest of the industry have at this point? So what's IDW's genius plan to follow up one of their best TMNT run in decades? A tone shift, a new villain, and one writer that feels like editorial pulled him out of a completely different book altogether. Gene Luen Yang and Freddie Williams II take over starting with issue number 13 this December. And what are they promising us? The Turtles will be reunited and feeling hopeful about the future of the city. They're facing a deadly new assassin named Yujigami who possesses a personal danger to the brothers. So we're going from Aaron's gritty street-level noir to hopeful stories and a generic new villain with a Japanese name. Now, before the pitchforks come out, let me be clear. These aren't bad creators, but they are the wrong creators for what TMNT just became. For those unfamiliar with Gene Yang, his writing does tend to lean a little bit more introspective or thematic, not exactly the gritty street-level tone that TMNT has been embracing this last year. His past works like American Born Chinese or Superman vs. the Klan focuses far more on allegory and messaging than it does on action. I would say that Gene Yang's stories definitely skew more towards a younger YA type of tone, which isn't bad for TMNT. We do have TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures, which is definitely kid-friendly, but is not in line whatsoever with what TMNT is right now. And while he did recently have a Shang-Chi run at Marvel Comics, it wasn't the most fast-paced, action-packed, grounded urban storytelling in the history of the world, which is kind of what you need right now to follow up what Jason, Aaron, and Juan Ferreyra have been building for the last year. Not to mention the fact that IDW editorial says the new run starts with the Turtles reunited and more optimistic, which feels like a 180-degree tonal shift in what they're doing on the series. Fans expecting any type of continuation with what we've been reading for the last year are absolutely going to be let down. Now, when it comes to Freddie Williams II, he has some legit TMNT credentials. He did the Batman TMNT crossover, which looked absolutely spectacular. If you've never read that, I suggest volumes 1 and 3. 2 didn't really do it for me, but it certainly wasn't the Freddie Williams art. He's done other cool things along that line with Injustice versus Masters of the Universe and some projects like that. He's certainly done plenty of TMNT comic book covers in the past. He draws like a monster. Everything's thick and super muscular. They're always decked out in gear. You get really awesome, chaotic splash pages. Perfect art for TMNT. No doubt about it. Freddie Williams is a great choice. And if Gene Yang starts monologuing about legacy and honor, the Freddie Williams art is likely so exciting and cool that you kind of forget how bored you are with the story. So even if the story stumbles, at least it's going to be wrapped up in some of the loudest, most chaotic art TMNT fans have seen. But this is a huge downgrade when it comes to writing. You've got Jason Aaron kind of rediscovering himself, and now we're going down to Gene Yang's more thoughtful, allegorical style. And I would say it's even a downgrade in art, even though Freddie Williams is amazing. I think what Juan Ferreyra is doing is probably the best art in the history of TMNT, and certainly the best art of his career. And if you thought the shakeup on the main title was bad, IDW said, hey, hold my beer, because they're not just changing creative, they're throwing literally everything at the wall and hoping some stuff sticks. IDW isn't just messing with the main TMNT book, they're launching 2 more series, Shredder by Dan Waters and Michelle Bandini, and Casey Jones by Alex Paknadel and Amankei Nahupan, because apparently quantity over quality is now their business model. These 2 titles join a growing list of TMNT comics. We've got TMNT, TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures, TMNT Mutant Nation, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We just stopped TMNT The Last Ronin Re-Evolution. We've also got all the best of TMNT comic books that are out there. There's another series that I'm forgetting that also just stopped. Oh, TMNT versus Naruto. They're basically flooding the market with spin-off comic books, but they're using really cheap talent. And this practically confirms the rumors that were out last year that IDW were cutting their page rates to the bone and simultaneously had vastly overpaid for their TMNT license when they renewed it after the debacle that was the Sophie Campbell TMNT run. One great book was not sustainable as a plan, but 6 spin-offs with no talent on them. Yeah, let's go with that. Dan Waters' introspective take on Shredder, where he's a Ronin-type figure without the Foot Clan, could be interesting, no doubt about it, but Waters is far better in comic books with mood and tone than he actually is with exploring characters. If you don't believe me, go check out his Destro miniseries. While not quite as bad as Scarlet, was not the high-water mark and not really, I think, what Destro fans wanted. So I don't personally believe that he's going to be a great fit for Shredder. Michelle Bandini is perfectly fine as an artist, not really a standout or a superstar by any means, but if you're a TMNT fan, I think you're probably in agreement with me that this is Mateus Santaluca's book, or at least should be, but they probably can't even afford him anymore. The bigger problem is Alex Paknadel on the Casey Jones book. It's guaranteed to be boring. I would say that Alex Paknadel makes Gene Yang, a writer that I already think is pretty darn boring, read like Chuck Austin at this point. As the old adage goes, you get what you pay for, and in this case, I think IDW is paying for one of the most flaccid stories in the history of comic books. I hope that I'm wrong, but Alex Paknadel's history tells me that's exactly what this is going to be. When it comes to the artist Amankei Nahupan, not a big name by any stretch, but he actually really fits a Casey Jones book quite well. He's done some really cool things on Flash and Green Lantern and stuff like that. So it actually should probably look pretty decent, not amazing, but good. And it's, too bad that it's going to be wasted on Alex Pactadem. So after all the promises and the hype and one of the biggest launches of the year, it feels like we're back where we started from. Another broken run, another broken promise, and the industry punishing fans who actually still care. Here's what really pisses me off about all of this. We bought in, we showed up, we supported the book, we made it successful. We supported Jason, Aaron, and Juan Ferreyra's vision of what TMNT was going to be coming out of the Sophie Campbell debacle. Because it was exactly what TMNT needed, a more mature take with more visually dynamic art, concentrating on the turtles and doing something that felt exciting again. And how did IDW respond in kind? Thank you for your money, but we really can't afford this kind of talent to stay on the book long term. And this isn't only about TMNT, this is about an industry that has completely lost its way at this point. When your flagship book can't keep a creative team for longer than a year, when your response to success is flooding the market with cheaper alternatives that people aren't really going to be excited about, when you're prioritizing quantity over quality that actually brought the fans back, you're not building a sustainable business, you're strip mining what's left of fan loyalty at this point. IDW overpaid for the TMNT license, there's no doubt about it, and now it's time for us to pay the bill. Every creative team change, every corner that they cut, that's them passing their financial desperation onto the fans who actually believed in their promises. And until this industry stops treating its creators and fans as disposable revenue streams, we're going to keep getting screwed. If you want to see how I called this, over a year ago, that IDW was slashing their page rates to the bone, and there was no way that they were going to be able to afford to keep Jason Aaron on the book. You definitely need to check this video out right here. I broke it all down a long time ago. There is also a link in the video description if you can't see the button. And I definitely want to hear from you guys. Are you going to stick around with TMNT with this new creative team? And remember, whether you're dodging budget cuts or Foot Clan goons, stay sharp out there, Turtle Power enthusiast, and always keep thinking critical.